But why else would people purposely misinform the population about the origins of this flag? Well, there's actually two reasons that I can think of. One is the fact that this was the losing design. And much like the South, who lost the war, this was embraced by the people, much like slavery was. Which brings me to my next point. When you get rid of all the bad, evil things about a symbol, and you shine it up and make it look all nice and nifty and neat and made of gold, then people will start seeing it as a source of pride and honor and venerate it, as well as the people that fought and died under it, no matter the reasons for why they fought and died for it. And we can see this, like I said, with communism. Stalin did the same thing. The Russian people didn't like his pogrom against Christianity, and they started to side with the Nazis during Operation Barbarossa. But what did Stalin do? He stopped the Nazi advance and then reinstated the church to drum up support from the people who didn't like his atheist agenda, as it is known, so that they could rejoin the military and kick Hitler's ass. Interesting. How he took this symbol, this communist flag, and turned it from something they hated into something that filled them with pride and honor. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. The South and this rebel flag is just one more instance of people taking a symbol of hate and trying to turn it into something good. And yes, I know you don't want me to say this, but I will. It's also very similar to how apologeticists have shined up the Bible to make it look more friendly to the average citizen, instead of what it is, which is something that is filled with a pack of lies and filled with a lot of hate and racism and other nasty little tidbits that they don't like to talk about, but which people like me love to point out because it's there. Now you may be asking, how do I know all this? How do I know that this flag was made for a separate foreign nation? How do I know that it's racist? What's really the nitty-gritty behind the symbolism of the flag? Well, ironically, this is where we're going to start talking about religion. What is some of this information I keep talking about? It's quite simple. The rebel flag, Southern Cross, or battle flag of North Virginia, depending on how you want to call it, was proposed in 1861. More on that in a bit. It was based off of a design from 1860. This design actually featured a vertical cross instead of an angled cross, with blue on red and white stars on the blue. It also included a white crescent moon and a white palmetto tree, which can still be seen on the South Carolina flag today. But it's the cross I want to talk about. This cross is also known as St. George's cross. St. George, as you may know, was actually a Roman soldier in the guard of Diocletian. And when he would not recant and do away with his Christian faith, was executed by Diocletian. But here's the thing that is also part of the story. St. George is one of the famous saints who defeated a dragon, of course saving a lovely maiden, but at the same time converting the native citizens in the area of said beast from paganism, or so-called paganism as you may know from my other videos, to what he saw as Christianity, the correct path. This plays into the mindset of the people that use St. George's cross. They're slayers of dragons, and they bring people back to the true way. It is very much a part of the flag's symbolism. The flag that the rebel flag was based off of was actually unveiled at South Carolina's Secession Convention in 1860. But the person in charge of the Flag and Seal Committee was a man by the name of William Porcher Miles. William Porcher Miles made his design, now known as the rebel flag, in 1861. He's also a person known as a fire eater. On a side note, speaking of this little twit, William Porcher Miles, I have it on good authority that he had at least 3, possibly more nicknames, some of which I have right here. He was known by the name of Old Porcham's Beard, Porchy's Revenge, and Muddy Nose Miles, the asshole that doesn't like black people. Now, Old Porcham's, he was one of those people that was in favor of the secession and in favor of slavery. In fact, he's also one of those people, like many Southerners, that believed in the so-called states' right issue. Now, this is the funny thing about states' rights. See, at that time, the Southerners were actually trying to push in Congress a federal guarantee that slavery would be allowed in the new territories. They opposed what was called popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty was actually when the states and the people themselves get to decide whether or not they will have slaves. So it was never about states' rights. In fact, the South said that the North was trying to ruin their economy by making it impossible to have slaves, which would destroy their infrastructure. Well, I'm sorry, but if they're trying to get rid of slavery, yes, the side effect is if you're dependent on slavery to make your money, they're destroying your economy. But they weren't technically going after the economy to go after the economy. They were going after the slavery. Do you understand? It's always been about the slavery. Not states' rights. States' rights to do what? As a person that said this 1,000 times to many other people and heard other people say the same thing, their idea of states' rights was a state's rights to own another person. And not just that, but to legally beat them, leaving scars on their flesh. More on this later.